Welcome back to the Beast Game Podcast. This is a review for Power Rangers. It's directed by Dean Israelite. He's best known for the time travel movie Project Almanac. It's written by John Gaddens and Matt Sazama. Gaddens has done Kong Skull Island. Sazama has done Gods of Egypt. It stars Darkay Montgomery as Jason, the Red Ranger Naomi Scott as Kimberly the Pink Ranger, RJ Seiler as Billy the Blue Ranger, Luden Lin as Zach the Black Ranger, Becky G as Trini the Yellow Ranger, Elizabeth Banks as Rita Repulsa, Bryan Cranston as Zordon, and Bill Hader as Alpha 5. And the synopsis is a group of high school kids who are infused with their unique special powers harness their abilities in order to save the world. So, just to give a brief overview, it starts with a prehistoric war zone about a previous iteration of the Power Rangers. The main villain is Rita, and she's trying to kill the Rangers for the medallions that they have. The medallions will give her power. Zordon is the Red Ranger, and he calls in a massive airstrike. And in that airstrike, he basically kills himself, sacrificing the medallions. And Rita sinks to the bottom of the ocean. Several thousand years go by, and we pick up with the character Jason. He's in high school, and he's pulling a high school prank. He gets chased by police, then gets into a big car accident. He's sent off to detention where he meets another character, Billy, and some of the other characters that appear as Power Rangers also show up in detention. Since Jason is also under house arrest, Billy says that he can help him ditch his ankle bracelet. Jason eventually takes him up on the offer, and then Billy starts talking about how his dad used to be a miner and found something in a rock quarry. They go to the rock quarry, which also seems to be a hangout spot for some of the characters in detention. Billy causes a minor explosion, and they find something in the rock quarry. So that's where we'll stop. And we're going to go to Matt, since you seem like you have a lot to say.
I did not like this movie at all. For a movie that came out in 2017, I figured it would have had better expectations. I understand this is not necessarily a remake because this is the first movie that came out, but a reboot, I guess, of the series as a whole. Either way, their first time on the big screen, how many years later? So 24 years to make a debut on the big screen, and this is what they came up with. Poor plot, poor CGI, poor acting, movie dragged on. I did not like this movie. No chemistry between any of the characters, and when they did try to do it, it was forced. So I expected a lot better, especially given how big was the budget? What, 120 million?
Probably somewhere around that.
Yeah, this movie did not do it for me.
All right. So we're going to go to Keith.
I like the movie. For what it was, being about Power Rangers and being based off of a Japanese Super Sentai show that was Americanized and kind of modernized and updated, thought it served its purpose. The teenage stuff was a little overdone, but at the same time, they took it serious enough that the people who actually did the movie were actually fans of it. I'm going to get flack for this, but I kind of got it also felt a little low budget to me. And I think the sequels would be better. Kind of got a Twilight vibe from it, where the very first Twilight movie was fairly low budget, and I guess they were true enough to the source material, but they accomplished what they set out to do.
I don't understand how you can tie in Twilight to this. I'm just going to cut you off right now.
I'm just saying the low budget.
I can see it from the high school kiddie type deal. I can see the Twilight that he's talking about.
All right, so let's go to James.
I liked it for what it was. I wasn't expecting Oscar-worthy performances or just something outlandish. You know, you got to remember that the original series was always kind of campy anyway. So I expected them to do the same thing, just more modern. And in my opinion, it did that. I was entertained by it. It wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't a great movie. It was entertaining. I could say this, the cliche, as I used to say, a popcorn movie. This is a popcorn movie. As a person that watched Power Rangers on and off growing up, this was okay. I mean, they did make some changes, which seemed kind of off, but, you know, it wasn't that bad. I enjoyed it. Like I said, you got to just see it for what it's worth and just remember that it's Power Rangers. You cannot expect an Oscar-worthy movie from Power Rangers.
Let me just go ahead and say some stuff. Even though I like this movie, I have a lot of negatives about it. So to start off, the middle part of this movie is the worst part of this movie. So there's a whole
I
bunch.
100% agree.
The next thing, the action for this is shot too closely and edited too weirdly.
Yeah, I agree.
The next thing is that the comedy wasn't written well, and Billy, in particular, is an over-talking character, which to me that is not comedy. There's also another movie where people in their late 20s are playing teenagers. There's also a lot of unnecessary product placement.
Krispy Kreme.
And when the movie does get going, that's when it works. Jason is a decent character. He's a good Red Ranger. And also, there were some comparisons I had to Thor, particularly with Goldar and the
A
Destroyer.
gold monster in 2017.
Well, compare that to the Destroyer from Thor. It was almost the same thing. You just have a robot basically trying to destroy things.
I agree, and that was just as bad too. Just because it's Marvel doesn't escape its bad plot.
Basically, they had a purpose in that one. Purpose of that Goldar monster was so it can dig up and extract the crystal.
From Krispy Kreme.
Right, from Krispy Kreme.
You had to throw that in there, right? From Krispy Kreme. Yeah.
They lighten it up a little bit. That's fine.
James, let's get into the reader question that you had.
Okay, it's not really a question. He's the one to give his thoughts. So this is a person that listens to our podcast. He's been listening to it a lot, obviously. This is from Donnie. He's been a super fan of Power Rangers because he grew up with Power Rangers for the longest time. He said Kimberly is his favorite Power Ranger. He also said that he fell out of love with the Power Rangers when they started doing all these other iterations, like which I mentioned. I never saw the other iterations, but I knew they were all over the place because of my nephew. So he enjoyed the movie for what it was, like me. It was just a popcorn movie and it was nostalgic for him. Like the nostalgia part isn't what I'm talking about. He went to this movie just hoping to see something that was reminiscent of what he saw growing up. And he saw some of that. He did have some issues with changing of certain characters and all that, just overall, just the whole backstory of characters. But outside that, he enjoyed the movie. That it surpassed most fans' expectations from his standpoint. But he really did enjoy this movie.
All right, so I have a couple of questions for you guys. How does this live up to the TV show and whatever iteration of the TV show that you have seen recently?
Doesn't live up to it. I mean, the comedy in the TV show, and mind you, there's a difference between TV show and movies. The TV show, their characters were likable, they had chemistry, and then on top of it, the action scenes were better on the TV show than in the movie. Normally, when I think of transitions between TV shows and movies, I'm thinking like Simpsons cartoon versus Simpsons the movie. I mean, normally when you get to the big screen, you're thinking big budget, you're thinking maybe better character, well, not necessarily character development, but better acting. And this wasn't it. It definitely wasn't it. Whether people like this Power Ranger movie because of nostalgia, regardless, even if they brought back Voltron like this and it played out just like that, I would hate that too. In my opinion, it just seems too forced, especially for a movie coming out in 2017. And if we're talking about taking a movie for what it's worth, oh, well, this is what it was worth back then. I mean, it was terrible. It seemed like there was an operational pause after the fire pit scene.
I can agree with everything
you're
you're saying.
There, and they were just like, oh, I have something to confess. It's like, okay, we're just all of a sudden just gonna, from there on, it's gonna be nice and close.
That's exactly what I was talking about with the character motivations. It's just like, well, I'm just gonna be open right now, and I just want to be myself. And I can only be myself around you strangers that I did not know a couple weeks ago.
It just felt forced. Like, okay, well, I'm just gonna tell you everything right now.
Keith, James, how does it live up to the TV show?
It was Power Rangers. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Are you saying it's Power Rangers because of nostalgia, or are you saying Power Rangers?
It's Power Rangers for Keith because it has a giant robot in it.
It is a ridiculous concept. That, in a nutshell, it is a ridiculous concept, and
so does that give it a pass? Because
I gave it a pass a lot. So I went in there expecting nothing. So I went in there.
He went in there expecting a big robot, And he got a big robot.
And then he's like 8.
I expected the martial arts. I wanted to see exactly what they were going to do with it, and I like what I saw. Now, I can agree with what you said about how the pacing was all over the place. Would they have 11 days of Power Ranger training? Then they started opening up and talking about their feelings and stuff.
Yeah.
I could agree with that, and I can agree with Billy. But the way I saw this whole movie was that this is a origin. This is a beginning, and they were just kind of like setting the pace. It's like the kind of the first couple of episodes of a TV show. It's like it's setting the pace for what's going to come in the next iteration. So,
James,
what I thought about this, I mean, you got to think about like this, and this is how I see it. I feel this movie. I do agree that the pacing was off. I do agree that the camaraderie was forced, but it was needed. Unlike the TV show, all the Rangers knew one another. They were friends already. So for them to do that with this, they didn't know each other. Whoever wrote this, they made it seem like they didn't know each other. Or they knew of one another, but they didn't know each other in detail. So I understood the reasoning behind the campfire scene. I understood it. Do I think it should have been there? No, but hey, it's there. I mean, to me, I'm not taking this movie that seriously because it is Power Rangers. So certain movies, especially like I said, this is a popcorn movie. Popcorn movies, you cannot take seriously. Just enjoy it for what it is.
Do we give popcorn movies passes for poor plots?
Big Trouble in Little China, you think that's a good plot?
I'm going to stand up for James and his comment because the most recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, what James describes as a popcorn movie, and the plot for that
but it's fun.
is silly, but the movie works because of nostalgia. It works because of it being something that people have invested their time in. And even with this movie, there's been multiple iterations of Power Rangers. There's been toys. I never really got invested in that, but
nor did I.
But I understand it. I appreciate it. But let's get on to the next question. So, did anyone see the short that was an unauthorized short
of
Power Rangers?
Yes,
from 2015, directed by Joseph Kahn, who is very arrogant. But
was that with the 14-minute one?
Yeah.
Yes, that one was amazing.
Yeah, so I just want to get your thoughts about that, other than Matt saying it's amazing.
The action was a lot better. And as far as feeling, I guess, attached to the characters, they just seem more believable. I don't know whether it had anything to do with the actors in this particular movie compared to the short. Anyone that saw that short, even if they had a little bit invested in it, or even they took it for what it's worth, it was action-packed, it was believable. If Power Rangers was that right there on the movies, you can't tell me that wouldn't have been good.
And for people that have not seen the short, it takes a different track for Power Rangers. So it's a more darker,
mature theme.
It's a more adult theme.
So the Power Rangers are adults and have lived through different crises, personal crises and professional crises. Kind of turns out to be
like the Batman of Power Rangers. Would you say that? More of a dark theme, or a little bit more mature?
Yeah.
More violent?
But Keith, do you have anything to say about that?
I like that little short. I thought it was pretty entertaining. Someone who watched Power Rangers would view it as when they kind of grew up. And
exactly.
I think this movie was more or less like, what someone who liked Power Rangers is trying to give to kids nowadays. Can't say which one's better or which one I prefer, because there are elements in both that I liked and elements in both that I disliked.
What didn't you like about the short?
I thought it was a bit much, way too dark and gloomy for it to be Power Rangers and stuff. Because in the end, the Power Rangers win. So, but not in this case. In this case, the Power Rangers lost. And
well, to me, that short felt a lot like Watchmen to me.
Yeah,
where that is a very serious comic book.
Tone was very serious in the short. Personally, I like the short better than this, but the reason why I like it is because this took it back to that, but then it took it back to it, but then brought it forward because it was just a more mature version of the original Rangers that grew up. Like he said, they grew up. They're not teenagers anymore. They're grown, have their own issues. I think Zach was a drug addict, or he was dealing with some drugs and pimping hoes or something like that. I mean, he was doing something.
Hoes.
I mean, he was doing something. I mean, he wasn't on the straight and narrow. And, everyone had their own dark little past. I mean, it was different. It was more mature, so I liked it. But this movie I liked as well because it's just it's a reimagining. And like I said, I took it for what it's worth. It's a popcorn movie. You cannot go to a popcorn movie expecting a great plot. Just be entertained. If you went into the Power Rangers expecting the awesome plot, great acting, superb martial
No one
arts,
expected that.
and all this, then you're going to be disappointed. I mean, just go in there thinking, oh, well, you remember the TV series, right? The TV series was campy as hell. It's most likely to be campy as hell. The acting wasn't great in the TV series. The martial arts wasn't really that great either. I mean, it was okay. So if you go into the movie with those expectations, I believe that you would enjoy it. The martial arts in the short was a lot better, but I'm not gonna say a lot better. Was better. The acting was better, and the plot was probably somewhat better too. But you also got to remember, this is an origin story with the original series.
Yeah, it was a forced beginning.
You're looking too deep into this. You're like I
I'm
said,
not looking deep at all. What I'm saying is my concern is the plot of it. If we're looking at movies as far as like, hey, take it for what it is. In that case, Suicide Squad, if you want to throw that out there, hey, it's just a campy movie. It's a whole bunch of villains there. You take it for what it is.
You can't compare the two, man.
I can compare the two.
You can, but your comparison is off.
I can compare the two.
You're comparing apples and oranges, not oranges and oranges.
I can compare the two. If I take that outlook, regardless of the movie, as far as for what it is, like, hey, I'm taking a look at Power Rangers for a campy movie. I'm going to take a look at Suicide Squad as a campy movie. I'm not even looking at that. I'm just looking at the plot and then the way everything flows. It did not flow well for me.
Okay, so
that middle third of that movie was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. It's like getting nails and putting it on a board. I'm not saying that Power Rangers isn't a good franchise. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that middle third of the movie, the flow of it.
It is a bad movie at that point. It is
one of those. And that is where I am. That is where my downfall of that movie is. That middle third was terrible.
To agree with Matt, the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie is a movie that I wanted to see.
Yes, that is exactly what I want to see. But that middle third, I'm just scratching my head like, why am I here?
Was great.
So I'm agreeing that this is a good movie. I'm agreeing with Matt that the middle part of the movie is bad.
The middle part did drag, but I never said that. I didn't say this was an all-around great movie. I took it for what it was.
The flow of this movie sucked too. The middle third should not have been in there.
I'm going to just prove your point all right here in this one fell swoop. All right, so you want to compare apples to you feel you're comparing apples to apples, correct?
No, what I'm comparing with is how you look at the movie. If you take a look at the movie and be like, all right, hey, I'm just going to take it for what it is. I'm not expecting great acting. I didn't expect great acting in Suicide Squad.
What did you expect from Power Rangers? What did you expect?
I did not expect great acting. I did.
Okay, you didn't.
For both these movies, I did not expect as far as the greatest plot. I mean, it's an origin movie. I get it. But the flow of it was terrible.
No, I'm asking you, what were your expectations?
I came in there with an open mind. Regardless of franchise, that middle third was terrible. That's
you would have enjoyed it for what it was. A popcorn movie. You just contradicted yourself.
We're not contradicting anything. What I'm telling you is if you go in there and try to go in there, you're like, all right, well, I'm not really taking it seriously.
I never said I was taking it seriously. I know what I was going to expect. It's Power Rangers. It's Power Rangers.
That was made in 2017.
All right, hold on, guys. Let me.
CGI in it. Did you like the CGI in it?
No, not particularly, but it's Power Rangers. Like, come on.
Hold on, guys. Hold on.
So we give it a pass.
We're not giving it a pass. He says you expect it.
He just said yes.
Matt and James.
I say yes.
Matt and James, hold on for a second. Hold on. Let's get back to a couple of things. So, did anyone stay for the stinger for this?
Yeah, I knew that was going to come, but yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was going to happen. I didn't stay for it, but I knew it would happen.
I just want to see how he was going to do it.
No, I apparently missed it.
All right. So, let's get into scores. So, Matt, what is your score for Power Rangers?
I give it a 5.
Oh my, okay. You gave it a 5. Okay.
That's fair. That's actually fair.
Let him explain.
Fair, but the way you were talking about it, that shit sounded like you were going to
Let him explain.
I mean, we are talking about the movie as a whole, right?
Yes.
Did I talk bad about the movie? Yes, I did. But again, just like what Barry said, the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie is what I expected as far as Power Rangers. That middle third, for me, really threw it off because I'm sitting there like, what is going on? So, in my opinion,
That's
I
fair.
think 5 is fair. I'm not saying it was the greatest movie. I never said that. Just that middle third was just terrible. Flow was bad. Everything was forced. I did not like the CGI, but it didn't mean that the beginning of the movie wasn't good. Didn't mean the end of the movie wasn't good. The middle of the movie, in my opinion, wasn't good, and it didn't flow with the rest of the movie. So I gave it a 5.
All right.
All right. So, Keith, what is your score for Power Rangers?
But I give the movie about 6.5 because I actually agree with Matt, not as to his degree, but the times I did cringe in the movie was the time when they were like those campfire scenes and the whole trying to make Jason a leader type scenes and stuff. I was just like, it was stupid. When the action came out, when they started like doing like Power Rangers action, that's when the movie got good. That little fight they had with Rita, that was actually well choreographed. If there was more of that, the movie would have been higher. And so I give it a 6, and then I enjoyed it, and I'll probably watch it again. But
You give it a 6 or 6.5?
6.5.
Okay.
All right, James.
I give this movie a 6.5 as well. That the middle, especially the campfire scene, I understood why it was there, but it did seem like it was forced. And it also, to me, in my opinion, you say you have 11 days. Isn't that kind of wasting time? It seemed like the whole time frame of this movie, how much time you have, you don't have a sense of time in this movie. But outside that, I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't expect a stellar plot. It's Power Rangers. It's fucking Power Rangers. I don't expect a Transformer movie to be like, oh my God, that plot was the shit. No, I don't expect that.
No, for
I
Keith
go
it
there,
is.
I sit my ass down, and I expect to be entertained. Movies like that, if you get a good plot, that is a blessing. That is a blessing when it comes to movies like this. If you're not going to get it. It's few and far between. I cannot name one movie on this caliber that had a decent plot. Not one.
What was the last good movie that you
Teenage
had a
Mutant
good
Ninja
plot?
Turtles. Out
Would
of
it
the
have a good
Shadows.
plot? I'm talking
Yeah.
about on this line, Matt.
No,
On
I'm
this-
just talking about. You said you hadn't seen one in a while that had a good plot. What was the last movie that you saw that had a good plot?
on this type of subject, on this
Period.
just period.
Just period.
Let's see. A Cure for Wellness plot wasn't bad. That wasn't too bad.
It had potential.
Exactly.
Yeah, you guys keep telling me not to watch it.
Logan, great plot. This is equivalent to Transformers.
Kong Skull Island.
No. No.
Yeah.
It's equivalent.
Oddly enough, one of the people that wrote this movie wrote that movie. So
Kong is king.
Kong is
Like
garbage.
like I said, this movie is equivalent to Transformers. Transformers movies are fucking horrible.
Well, James, let me step in for a second. So, for me, my score is going to be a 6. As I stated earlier, that middle portion of the movie is a bad interpretation of a CW TV show.
CW. Holy
It is
crap.
a drama and an action movie that does not have a place in it. Everything else that surrounds that is a good movie. The movie that surrounds it is like an 8. That middle portion knocks it down 2 points. And kind of getting into some of the discussion about, is it a popcorn movie or is it a masterful piece in cinema? Obviously, it's a popcorn movie, but there's better versions of popcorn movies that, hey, turn off your brain. Kong Skull Island is not that movie. This movie gets a pass for it. That's the Beast Gang Podcast. You can find more of our podcasts at beastgang.com, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Twitter, and YouTube.
Go Power Rangers.